Hi crafters, it's Kathy from Scrap and Bean for Try It Tuesday, and today I thought we would work with something that's a little bit unusual but super fun. It's making your own embellishments. So what I have here is a couple of molds from Prima Marketing. This one is these really cool borders that I think would go great on like a canvas or a journal cover, or actually you can add these to your furniture or your walls if you'd like to. And then this one is Nocturnal Elements, and I've been playing with that one a bit. I just love the stars and the moons out of there. Lots of fun. So that's the one I've got out here to work on today. And what I'm putting in there is modeling material, which is also from Prima Marketing. So it's this modeling material, it's not like a paste, it's not like a clay, it's its own kind of thing. So I guess that's why they call it material. So you can see I don't have a lot left. I've been using this. I've used quite a bit of that already. So I just pull off a hunk of that, and it's really nice and soft. I'm going to keep my lid on here because I don't know how quickly it would dry out, but I'm thinking it's probably a good idea to keep a lid on there. So very pliable. It's not stiff like clays are, but it's stiff enough that it can kind of hold its shape, but very easy to work with. And it's I don't need to wear gloves or anything with it. Well, a certain amount of it might be clinging to my skin, but not much of it. So really no need to do this. It's just fun. But what I do want to do before I press it into the mold is any places where I've got like these crevices and cracks and where it's uneven, I don't want that, because if I take a crack or like this little crevice here and push it into my mold, chances are when I take it out, I'm going to have that crevice on my embellishment, and I don't want that. So I just want to get this nice and smooth. And one way I've found to do that is just, okay, so now that's fairly flat there. Just going to take that and push it into, say, this full moon here. So push it into that mold. And obviously I've used way too much material there. I've got lots hanging off here. I'm just going to cheat and pull some of that away. Okay, so it's pressed in there really good. And now there's still quite a bit of material on top, you know, extra on top of the mold. If I turn it sideways, you can see there's quite a bit sticking up there. So I want to get that off so that the back of my embellishment is nice and flat. So I'm going to put the palette knife right into the center and pull towards the edge. And again, I'll put it in the center and just scrape that excess off towards the outside of it. And then I save that to use it. And there's our little embellishment. Okay, so while I have this extra here going, I actually have a lot here. Wow, I kind of used too much, but that's okay. It can go back into my jar too. I'll just smooth another piece of this out so I don't have too many crevices in there. And maybe let's do this big star here. So I'm just kind of smearing it into that mold, and this time the amount I used is a little bit more suitable to the size of the embellishment, so I don't have quite as much excess sticking up there, but you can see there's still quite a bit. So I'll go from the center of it and just pull that out to the edge. Reuse that piece that comes off and go from the center, pull to the other edge. And let's see, what can I do with even this little bit that I have left here. I'm just squishing it to smooth it back out and see if I can get no cracks in there. And then I think there's enough to just fill up this little star, so I might as well. If I can get it pushed down in there. So I'm going to go roughly the middle and pull that out. So I should show you what happens too if you don't start from the center, because of course I'm not always good at reading directions. I don't know if they tell you anywhere to do it that way, but I'll show you what happens if you don't. So if I take like maybe this bigger star here, do the same thing, just pushing it into my mold. Now, instead of starting from the center, if I pull from the outside, even if I'm trying to flatten it and push it back in there, it just wants to pull away, and see how that's pulling away from the edges of the mold? So I'm just not gonna get a good design there. It's trying to lift the whole thing out. So much better to go from the center and push towards the edges, and that way it doesn't pull up your edge on you. So let's see, let's go back into that star there, might as well. And go from the center and pull out. That way it stays in there nice. It gives me a nice flat edge. And the rest of that I'm going to put back into my jar because I think we've made enough for today's purpose. And then you don't have to wait for them to dry in your mold or anything. You just see how flexible it is. So you can just kind of pop them right out of there. So I bend this and they just start coming out. Now it's not dry, and so it's quite, you know, this is quite flexible. I can bend it a certain amount. So you could decorate a candle or a jar with it. Okay, here's just a paint jar I happen to have, paint bottle. So you could mold it around something round. So a jar, bottle, anything you want to decorate. Or you can have it flat. I'm going to have it flat because I think I'll add that to one of my art journal covers. And we can get the rest of them out here. There's another star. So I'm being a little bit gentle because I don't want to squish it and get rid of the design. And this other larger star here. And, oh, this little tiny one we made too. There's a little one. So now the directions say to allow this to air dry. Also, a tip is that when you're in a dry climate, like Alberta tends to be very dry, you don't want these to dry out super fast. So the manufacturer's tip is to put a wet cloth over top of them, and so it slows the drying process down a little bit and you have less tendency for shrinkage. So that's a good tip that we could use too. And then once these are dry, so they're nice and hard, then you can go ahead and paint them or spray them or doodle on them, whatever you'd like. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to wait for them to air dry. I'm just going to go ahead and start decorating them, just so you can have an idea of how easy that is. So I happen to have here my beloved fresco chalk paint. This is the little black dress. So it's just black paint that happens to dry quickly. You can always use black gesso on them, or whatever colors that you want. But this one, oh, I should have shook this a little bit. So this is just black paint I'm going to do these with, and then I will add some color with some wax. And I am going to go a little bit easy on these because they're not hard. They're just quite soft still. And I don't want to get rid of any of the detail on there. And it wouldn't hurt to do 2 coats of paint just to make sure you're getting it everywhere. Getting that good coverage. Okay, so I got out some Prima Waxes to add some colors to these. Now my paint is dried, but I did not wait for the embellishment itself, the molding material, to dry. So I'm still, you know, I'm taking the risk of it flattening a little bit on me. And if you're going to do this at home, I would certainly advise you to let them fully air dry before you start decorating them, just to have less likely to have some issues. But we're just going to move ahead here. So here's some rich copper, and I just picked that up from the store tonight. So I'm not sure what the color is going to be like, but ooh, that looks really cool. And it doesn't take very much, so I'm going to work actually out of the lid. I just put a little bit on my finger, and actually I don't even want that much. So I'm going to smear a little bit out on my surface, like you really just hardly have any. And then I'll just touch a little bit of that. Touch it lightly. Oh, that's a cool color. Pick up a little bit more. So I could just go lightly on here and it'll pick up the highlights of this full moon face, which is kind of cool. Or if I wanted to have more of that color, if I wanted it solid and not have any black showing through, then I could get down there with a little paintbrush or something to put it into the crevices, but I like that with the little accents on there. So let's try it with a star. I'll use that same color. But I find it's hard to get just a teeny little bit on your finger. So I'm just going to wipe it off first. So I really just kind of have a fingerprint on there. And you could just go along the edges of the highlights of your star. That's kind of a cool look. Or you could color the whole star. See if we can get my finger in there on the little guy here to get some more. It's a little bit of the black showing through, which is kind of a neat contrast, right? If I just wanted the color of the wax and no black showing through, I could just put the wax right onto the modeling material without painting it first. But I like that look of the black showing through. So let's try another color. I like that copper. That's very cool. Actually, maybe I'll do just a little bit more, just the edges of this star here. You can see where I put my fingernail, poked it in there. It's not so smooth anymore. So you can see how a little tiny little bit of wax I use. This wax, like, it'll last me a lifetime, those colors. Because you get so much in here, right? And you're just using... Ooh, that's a pretty color. Not that blue goes so well with copper, but I just want to show you how beautiful that blue is on there. So what if we do the blue on here? And you see where even that blue, there's some of the black is showing through. I like that look. But if you wanted to cover it up, then you just put a little bit more wax on there and you'll get rid of all the black too. That's kind of cool. This one that's mostly copper, could go in there and just do the little peaks blue. Blue and copper, yeah, not that great together. It should probably be blue and gold or blue and silver. Might look better. But I like that coppery color. That's quite neat. And kind of want to try the red. With red on here, what would that look like? I'll maybe just cover up the copper. Yeah, very cool. Maybe do some of the edges. Love this wax. I use it a lot on chipboard too. Paint my chipboard black and then just put highlights of the wax on there. That's a cool thing. So this one, the red, is called Fire Ruby. So there's a few ideas to create your own embellishments, and these molds come in all sorts of shapes. This one's called Nocturnal Elements, but there's also birds and leaves and flowers, all sorts. Little corner embellishments, locks and keys. And this is a great way if you want to make a whole bunch of embellishments, because man, that goes pretty quick and easy to decorate. And you could even just spray these. If you want to just spray them instead of painting them, that would go even quicker. And here I'll show you a project where I have actually attached these to a project. This is for an art journal cover. So this you'll recognize is the same star, just different color. Now some of these other stars, those are all chipboards with the waxes on them. Here's another one of the small. This is the small star that we were doing here. It's that one. Oh no, it's a little bit bigger maybe, but close to that one. Here's the moon face. Here's a half moon and some more of the stars. And then some of these other things are all chipboards. But that'll give you an idea of what it's like actually having your embellishments attached to your project. I hope you give that a try. It's a lot of fun and very creative. Happy crafting!